Hello, acquired listeners. Since we did our episode on Shopify 6 years ago, they have turned into a giant public company. They went public in 2015 for less than $1.5 billion, very cute by today's standards. They're worth nearly $200 billion now and doing about $10 billion a year in revenue. We've gotten to know Tobi and the team pretty well since then, and Tobi is an incredibly unique thinker. We were originally thinking, let's do an ACQ2 episode on Shopify's recent developments, sort of everything that's happened since, which ended up turning more into a philosophical conversation about the state of computing, how AI changes everything, and what's possible to build in the future because of AI.
Yeah. We also got into some of the more insane moments for Tobi as a CEO over the past few years, like when the company almost became a meme stock, going from trading around a 20x revenue multiple before COVID up to 70x, then crashing back down after COVID and SERP. Today, though, they're nearly back at an all-time high, but this time because the business and the revenues are actually doing great, not because of a COVID and SERP-fueled bet on the future.
Yes. So please enjoy our conversation with the founder and CEO of Shopify, Tobi Lütke. Where have you spent a disproportionate amount of your mental cycles in the last month?
It is a privilege of a lifetime to be part of another platform shift. And man, like it's just every single time I think I have my head wrapped around it, it's like, it's remarkable how quickly one normalizes to completely futuristic new things appearing. We are all kind of like, yeah, I guess I can just paste this into ChatGPT and like ask it questions about it. I'm still hung up on like, there's software that no one wrote and I have to interview it to figure out its capability. So my time is like really just interviewing like these like new models that are coming out for their capabilities and like, just trying to figure out how to make them idealized, non-judgmental teachers for people. They keep getting better, and how to create structure around judging new models for their capabilities, figuring out where the edges are of what they can do right now, but also make it so that I can very quickly retest any new model coming against those edges to figure out if we've crested another.
Do you have your own personal like test harnesses built to try to understand capabilities
That's
of models?
exactly it. This is sort of what I'm describing, but you're nailing it. Like I've now have like a Tobi eval. They're like it's like literally a folder of prompts with expected and judged results, and I'm like. I run it against every model. Like at some point, I'm like, yes, I have these chats and I have these standard questions, and then I sort of make decisions based on this. I can write code that does this for me and run this against every model. And like, it's just like, it's funny how your thinking evolves while engaging with these tools, right? Like this is like not how I would have approached this before, but like speaking with a lot of machine learning experts, this is how they have been doing this. These ideas of building evals, they're called, right? Like, that's not a term to most people, and it's sort of a niche product of the machine learning world because it's essentially just batch jobs which just try the same thing over and over again and then judge the results.
Yeah, I know them as unit tests.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you unit tests were around and were like kind of a revolution in the early 2000s, end of 90s. I remember when people sort of proposed automated unit tests as a thing. And I talked with you before about my wonderful Meister where I did my apprenticeship with at Siemens. And he always said, like, you have 2 years to develop software after you start. And afterwards, it's like someone pours cement into it, right? Like, you're never going to change it again. And that was true in the 90s. That's how people thought about software.
Right. Software engineering was like civil engineering. It's like you build the bridge is done.
Exactly. There's an end date to it. And then if you wanted to evolve it, you rewrote it, right? Like, like Windows was a rewrite. Every major version was actually start from, they took some with it, but like it's mostly start from scratch. Software evolves forever. I still can't really explain why bit rot exists. Like, why does a great piece of software is really, really bad, like a decade later, right? Like, it's like, it hasn't changed. We have changed, right? Our expectations have changed, maybe. But like,
as soon as the new iOS is announced, the old iOS feels like garbage.
Right.
And it's not that your phone got slower, and it's not that those UI paradigms sort of expired.
That's right. And I see this like really vividly. This is a good example because I do all these product reviews, and I'm also like, I mean, it's such a bad thing to do, but I physically can't restrain myself from hitting that update to latest beta button when it appears anywhere, right? Like, it's just like I cannot. Like, it's like this is siren's call. There's no amount
so
of.
do you run beta
Yeah,
software on your phone?
First version. Like,
Wow.
I can't not. I'm like, and I have a single phone, and I'm like, I'm just gonna. I find all the bugs that are waiting for me as interesting constraints that I can like play with. Just like my apps
Do you have like
don't.
Craig Federighi on speed dial, and you're like sending him screenshots of like...
No externalities. I'm just like, I own it. I own my own problems. I'm going to the first developer beta, and if 5 of my apps that I need every day don't work, I use it as delightful opportunity to learn about new apps. Right? So it's just like,
you're a public company CEO, and sometimes your phone is just randomly crashing.
it just doesn't work.
But that actually is avoidable, but not for you.
Yeah, it's whatever the consequences
And
of
this
this
is
are.
why Tobi is special.
So anyway, I just like live in, as much as, iOS is just updating to a new UI paradigm called Liquid Glass, which was very much maligned right off the bat by people, and somewhat rightfully so in some instances. But to be fair, like, Apple has an uncanny ability to introduce things that afterwards seem that was clearly the right thing, and actually it's not even clear that they're better. It's just very clear that they make everything else worse. It's induced bit rot on everyone else in a way. It's like, just so I've been living with this changed UI for a while, and I'm in these product reviews with my own teams, and we're looking at designs which are clearly sort of good designs in the context of the world that we are now leaving, in a way, and like it's incredible what it does. Like, because I'm like, hey, designers, I know you need you on betas. You need to design for the device as it will be experienced by people in the future, right? And so I find that is just like the biggest job that I personally can do for the company, and then my company can do for my customers, which is like live in everyone else's relative future. You don't even need to predict the future that well. If you just live in everyone else's relative future, which really is just a couple of high conviction, high courage, update to beta clicks.
Right. It's not that hard to live in the future.
It really isn't.
Do that.
Yeah, exactly. You just go experience, develop taste for it and figure out how to make your own decisions. And this is, of course, extraordinary true, making Sidekick inside of Shopify, and like having the AI assistant, which is now like massive.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about that, and like back to Bitrot. I mean, I was going to ask before. A lot of code is now not written by humans, and it's trivial to just be like, yeah, update this, make this better. What's going on in Shopify?
I mean, exactly. Like, what an incredible change. Code used to be by far the most expensive thing to produce, right? I think really, really good code for load-bearing things is still exactly like this. But like around the margins, there's a lot of a kind of code that glues together inspired infrastructure is can now just be treated as like a first draft, right? Like for something. And I think that's actually extremely healthy. Like, this is a property of almost every great piece of software. There's a very clear split somewhere. There's a layer, like the Linux kernel needs to be developed in one way, and then the Linux operating system is like just uses the kernel's infrastructure and pretends like every computer is the same, because you can like it creates a pretend world that's easier to reason about, so that then the software can be implemented.
Abstraction. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, abstraction, but inspired abstraction. Abstractions can also be bad, because like abstraction is just another word for pretension. It pretends, like everything that abstracts something just pretends it's different from how it actually is. And so abstractions can be incredibly powerful, and there are some one could name which have like really stood the test of time. But a lot of abstractions are lossy abstractions. They actually pretend the system is something it is a lot less powerful than what it actually is, which really, really matters if you evolve things on top. And then you end up on this like tower of abstractions. You sit on top, you want something for which you would actually have to go down here and connect. And then you have this sort of a spider web of cables left and right. And it's just like, it's all like spaghetti in the end.
This was like the world of, to make it concrete for listeners, the write once, run anywhere mobile idea, where, we'll just
yeah.
cross-compile to all of the different phones back
man, what
in
was
2012 or so.
was
Phone
Xamarin one
Gap
of
or
these
Xamarin.
guys? Yeah.
The abstractions ended up being too lossy where you didn't actually have
Or
access
worst
to the
case,
capabilities.
the HTML5 debacle of
Right.
like, oh great, we'll just write for HTML5 and it'll run like a native app, and like, no.
Yeah, and very, very good software companies believed that to be the way, right? Like hybrid applications were all the rage in the beginning. And remember, the phones were really, really slow back then. The phones are insanely quick, and even today, hybrid apps are not that great. So, Facebook famously was all in on this idea, and Xamarin is a good example. So there's a lot of these kind of picking the wrong abstractions early really constrains the what you can do on top. And very often, when the abstraction is wrong, it means you can't actually reach great software anymore. You actually pretended the world is simpler, but like you don't actually allow all the most load-bearing pieces into this pretended world that are at some point required to making the software just really, really good. And so, again, I'm a tool maker, right? Let's keep beating on this Xamarin thing, which no one's heard of, but like just, I think we've described it enough so that people might have an idea for what it might be. Just imagine you use very bad software and the team that started the project decided early to use Xamarin, and then they never had a chance of making this as good as all the other things you really appreciate on your phone due to this decision, no matter how good they are.
It's like building your house on top of your kitchen table instead of on the foundation of your house.
That's a very good analogy. There are early decisions that will constrain how good you can make something. In our parlance at Shopify, that means certain ideas, certain abstractions, certain choices bring the ceiling down. As in, like, if you have a scale from 1 to 10 of how good something can be, 10 is world-class masterpiece, and 1 is like horrible. What you hope to do is that you use abstractions to make it easier to reach a good number. It brings the floor up. It's at least this good, right? That's what most abstractions do. And from business value, a lot of businesses choose tools to make it at least this good because that is sort of a passing grade, right? Like it clears the hurdle.
Why would any customer use Shopify? It's like, well, okay, I could go build my own e-commerce checkout payment system.
My store is going to be at least this good, even if I do zero customization.
Right. And well, if you set out to do your own, like from scratch, and this is not your core business, what you get back might actually be like completely underperforming what you wanted, right? Like, so you can't even use it.
Not might be, will be.
Yes, very, very, very likely. And it becomes one of those ever like dev March projects that you just pour resources in. It takes incredibly good people to rescue a bad project, which is like hard to even convince good people to do this.
Windows Vista.
Yeah. So you end up in this world where, so bring the floor down is what people hope for. What a lot of people miss is very often the same systems bring the ceiling down.
Yeah.
And so what you are trying to do as a tool maker, as an infrastructure builder, as a product maker, is you want to make a tool that brings the floor up significantly, but doesn't constrain the ceiling. And that is extremely hard. And I think sometimes it takes, it might not take decades to build it, but it does take decades to build the mental picture to really understand all the aspects of a problem domain in such a way that you have to look around 5 corners to know, am I going to restrict someone's potential with making this sort of choice that's here ahead of me? Modern operating systems are wonderful. They don't usually lower the ceiling. You can build any amazing piece of software on top of Windows, Linux, and OS X now. We figured out how to do this because we have been building operating systems for a very long time, and there were clearly attempts that were wrong. There's many such spaces, e-commerce software being one of them. Where it's just like, yes, we want to build something that works like this. However, it also matters how likely it is. Like, what is the distribution inside of the users of the system of people who hit 10 out of 10 versus like, if your floor is 7 out of 10, which is really good, is everyone clustered there and 1 or 2 people manage to take it to the storied heights? That's also bad. And again, this is why I think AI is so exciting, because I think its principal ability is really to help massively shift the sort of scatter plot of where people end up in as compared to their own vision. I want people, if they have like whatever their vision is, unencumbered, is a 10 out of 10. on the scale. I want them to hit it. And I just like, if they don't, there needs to be good reasons, and ideally their own. Like the choices they made, maybe made mistake, maybe their product's not good.
Not that the platform constrained them into not being able to make something great.
Computers should never constrain people. It's like, this is not the computer's role. The computer is to get people to build things that they could not possibly imagine having solved otherwise. It's like, this is for sorting, this is for ordering. Like, computers are there to make humans better, never to constrain what humans can do.
What does that look like from a product? I could imagine, but what sort of products are you building that take advantage of that?
Usually when it is a 10 out of 10, very often people are working with experts. Some people will really dedicate themselves to really, really understanding all the ins and outs of a really complex piece of software. In many cases, that's the only way we could get there, although I think the role of software is to minimize the need for this kind of thing. We want to make it approachable so that people can sort of, again, accomplish their initial goal, get online, have a checkout, be able to sell the product that they spent a lot of time with. And if they have additional time to invest, be able to start, we call this hill climbing, right? So now with, like, you have an AI you can ask. In fact, we are going to increasingly ask you what your goals are, right? Or at least we either try to find ways to deduct that from what people are doing with the software, or just straight up ask. Because my theory is that people are very happy to tell us what their goals are. And a lot of software just doesn't do it because it can't action it, right? We could put a to-do list there and help you with a record keeping, but it can't be, we can't do anything about a to-do list before AI. And now again, with these agentic flows, we increasingly can. So, I think the way to get to 10 out of 10 is just like really sit on the same side of the table, we have the intake. You very naturally tell us what you're trying to accomplish. And then we can show you, here's what a prototype would look like of this idea that you have. And just like also implement just these obscure best practices, right? I've spoken with one of our customers. They're selling rugs and
rocks.
Rugs.
Oh, rugs.
Carpets.
Okay.
The woolly stuff on the floor.
Yeah. Like beautiful carpets, really. I should use the word carpets because that works better with my accent. We were just not making progress in with a Europe strategy and kind of about to pull out. And then we used some tools that we rolled out, not really knowing what it would be used for, to just change the pictures, like literally just update the images of all their products away from Malibu beach houses to Parisian apartments. This was not a new photo shoot. This was actually just like, do this for me.
Wow.
And their sales tripled because 3 years ago, this would actually technically not have been possible to do. Now it's about the most boring thing you can imagine, right? Like, this is how much the world has changed.
I mean, at a minimum, it would have been like, okay, let's book a photo shoot in Paris and let's
allocate some capital, organization, like it needs someone attention, probably someone
let's get
who can
product there.
Exactly.
Let's lay out
And so now this is just done, and like this has proven out. And again, I'm sure they don't run these AI changed product pictures now in production. I'm sure they did the shoot afterwards, but they also discovered something over their business which would have been entirely obscure to it. But this is a applicable lesson across the entire platform, and something we can absolutely help very small businesses that don't have the resources to go reshoot all their pictures.
Well, and shoot, like, this stuff is now so good that, like, you probably don't need to do the shoot.
Right.
Like, even if you are the biggest business in the world, like, difference is undiscernible.
Yeah. And like, when you talk about the biggest business in the world, they already operate like this. Like, IKEA does not, the IKEA catalog has no photos in it. It's all renders. They just they create really, really good versions of.
Oh, car commercials are not videos of cars driving. It's renders of the cars.
Yeah. And you only know because the professional drivers on closed roads has disappeared, which was required before, right? Like, so that just doesn't, they don't need to show this anymore because
I hadn't noticed that.
Like, there's no one actually driving.
That's the giveaway.
Yeah. So I think the way this really hits for me the most is, again, I grew up on all the sci-fi books that everyone my generation really grew up on, or many did anyway. The sort of very, very optimistic, but also far future, Asimov and so on. And
what's your favorite, by the way?
I am my favorite. That's actually, I think Snow Crash is my favorite. It's just, and Neuromancer is. I recently reread Neuromancer. It's a really, really good book.
It's a good one.
In so many cases, especially Heinlein did this, like there's usually like a catch-up chapter. Here's how we get to the starting point of a book. And one of the events is always in 2110, we pass the Turing test. And like there are celebrations in the streets, and then something turns sour usually right after, right? Like to set the stage. And you know what no sci-fi author dared to predict is that the Turing test just passes by.
We just blow by it and nobody noticed.
No one.
There was no New York Times front page article that we've passed the Turing test. It's not even like the tech community was exploding about it. We all were just like, oh yeah, we're in the generative AI era now.
Yeah. If you just
can't tell anything.
Clearly GPT 3.5, which is like it's significantly worse than something you can run on your phone right now locally. Like pass the Turing test with flying colors, and it's this is crazy. Like this is the craziest thing about the actual world if you think about it.
It's interesting that maybe I'll take back my previous comment. What was actually happening when we passed the Turing test and no one cared was we were all so focused on, oh, is this the path to AGI? I kind of wonder if AGI will be the same thing, where we do actually achieve AGI, but we'll all actually be talking about some other future milestone that we're wondering about.
I think humans are incredibly good at moving a goalpost.
Yeah.
It's like there's some kind of expectation-related version of a hedonistic treadmill that we sometimes talk about, which is like just like it moves forward. It's we adjust to our circumstances incredibly quickly, and so, like I mean, almost everyone listening lives their own dream life from many years ago, right? Like people accomplish their goals, and we kind of never stop to think about it. And I think this is like it's really really hard for us to judge our own environment and what's going on around us. So I think in a like on a societal level, this even seems to replicate. And again, the Turing test was one of the best takes we've had, and people can like now people criticize it because it's not good enough because I suppose it wasn't, but like it was still the best test that people generally referred to about figuring out if something is intelligent, and we passed it, and there was no parades. No front page news. No ticker tape parades. You know, it's like we should have.
Yeah. It does seem though that there are a few CEOs, of which you are one, that noticed this and like you're behaving. You started this 100%. Whole conversation by saying you have the privilege now of living through another platform shift. I don't think the world has quite realized yet that it's a platform shift.
Yeah, but I wish people would, and I wish people would like sort of seep in the remarkableness of it. Like it's just like I don't know if you've ever done this. Like I mean I love the VR goggle, Meta Quest, and so on. I use it more than most because I use it for like racing simulator preparations and so on. It's an incredible device, which also like VR was another one of those things which we thought we would get at some point, and then it came, and like it's kind of like there. People use it sometimes for like their fitness workouts or whatever. It's just like it just folded into the ambient world, at least for some.
We take it wildly for granted that technology is cheap and plentiful today.
Yeah, exactly. $299 or whatever, like for like remarkable device, right? You know, augmented reality, like also something people talk about. You can buy them next week. Like it's just like an event next week after we film this, and then afterwards you can just purchase
it'll be AR out by then. Yeah.
Video and everything.
Yeah, so, the meta glasses. Exactly. Amazing.
And so that's all around us. And you know, one thing that really struck me is when you play with Meta Quest and with VR goggles, there's one game which I really highly recommend people. There's it's called Job Simulator. Have you ever encountered Job Simulator? Okay, you have to try it out. Job Simulator is like this sort of satirical take of like it pretends we're in a far future, and there's museums where people go to figure out what a job was.
Yes.
And it starts you on a cubicle, and you know, like you have to turn on the computer, and you have to to turn it on. You actually have to plug a power cable into the wall, right? And it's like otherwise it doesn't work, and you just think it's broken. And it's so wonderful because like it plays on the future historians and robots kind of getting details wrong. I actually think it's like profound and actually brilliant commentary on the world. But I think what I did this nails is that I think we will have VR simulations of these times. I think we do. Like I think this is golden age of humanity right now. I think it's the end of the beginning, and so I think we will. I think people in 1,000 years will study these times the way we are studying Cicero's times of the end of the Roman Republic, and as a significant part of history, and because it's kind of where we figured ourselves out in a lot of ways. And yes, there's like people look at you look at the news. There's lots of like there's a lot of current affairs and events. I think they will fade out behind simplistic terms. Like obviously there was like strife in any kind of time during great change, but it's so unmitigatedly good. It's like there's so many things we are bringing to the world, these gifts of incredible technology and progress that are coming rapidly, that are all kind of the types of things that are going to make give individuals with vision so much more agency, which is like the thing that like is always at the top of the funnel of anything like that people truly care about. Like it's everything that people really love, all the products, all the experiences, other people's are things that people fought for. It's a passion, the results and the residue in a museum of it's a museum of other people's passion projects, as John Collison puts it.
Such a good quote.
Such a good quote. I think that is probably the best tweet on the entire X platform. Like, is so good.
We'll link to it for listeners who haven't seen it. I'm sitting here thinking, if I could kind of describe your life, you started a company in the previous technology era, the web era, and then took it into the mobile era. You have a family. You have hobbies. You've talked about racing, and the entire world is going through what I think you think is the most transformative change in the last hundreds of years.
Yeah.
What should you do with your current life in reaction to that, knowing that you live at one of the most like crucible moments in history when we look back at it?
Me specifically, or is my
maybe you
my
specifically,
advice?
and then like generalize it. What should people do if they believe this?
I tell you
it sounds like you're interviewing models every day.
Yeah, the ones with floating points in them, just to be clear. Like, because
Oh yeah. You are interviewing foundational models.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's important distinction.
Good distinction. Yes.
So yeah, like, I mean, here is what I'm doing. I am very much. This comes fairly natural to me, and I think it's a little bit a job for me to transmit some of the awe I feel about the times, right? Like I think that what we think of history currently is wrong. And again, the people in 1,000 years from now who are also going to play 2020 simulator.
I'm never going to get this image out of my head.
Yeah.
I love it.
They will think about these decades and this time differently, because what they will do in due time is reintegrate technology into our own history. Our own self-history is one of sometimes decline, right? Like we are talking about the Golden Gate Bridge being built in whatever 2-3 years. We are rightfully saying we can't do this anymore. We are looking at great works and infrastructure projects and our the great generation, the wars and these kind of things, and look at this and say, well, we can't experience a world right now where people build Bethlehem Steel or people build Henry Ford's factories, or they're just like physical manifestations of the incredible power of human beings coming together and creating things is sort of manifest for us to see in front of our eyes. And so therefore people judge that we no longer do this. However, we are actually absolutely doing this. It's just the great works are kernels of operating systems, the browser, the lots of the software platforms, the phones, the incredible advances in silicon lithography, and the models that we create and train, and the data centers that support them.
Some of it is actually physical building, laying the energy infrastructure and the power generation, the power transmission, the buildings themselves, the heat management, the cooling.
Yeah.
I mean, less than 3 years ago, ChatGPT didn't exist.
Yeah. but it is physically not as imposing. So like a data center, I love the blinking lights down the aisle, but man, if you have been to what a refinery looks like, or a natural gas liquidation plant, it just hits you on a level that is it requires zero analogy to understand how incredible of an achievement each of these things is. Like the bridges we drive over are like they're just like, man, this is humans being their best selves, creating, shaping things, not just like, and like very often not stopping at utility, but also going for just beauty by itself. Like the ornamentation is load bearing because we're not just we're creating things. So like there's no ornamentation on the outside of it, of a data center that eventually will train superintelligence if that were to
Right.
occur.
In fact, we hide it. We don't put logos on it. We don't even we try not to have them on maps.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be as obscured as we can make it. So so I think this is one of those things in the world that sends people astray. So back to what I love to transmit this because I have cultivated, like every technologist has to, an appreciation for the abstract in the same way that people naturally come preloaded with an appreciation for the concrete. Like I can look at a piece of software and appreciate it in the same way how I can look at the Pantheon. And unfortunately, that is not something that comes easy. In fact, that requires and is also probably not worth the time that it takes. You really have to rewire your brain in a very significant way. People will build tech
Any
companies.
human can look at the Pantheon and be like,
yes,
oh, but not any human can look at a piece of software
Yeah.
and say, wow.
Exactly. And we even have the thousands of years of understanding about why the Pantheon is. Like we can start with math to tell you why the ratios are correct. We're close in the abstract realm. We can't describe why software is good truly. It's taste. It's some people know it when they see it. It's something you cultivate, and so it's just abstract on top of abstract. If you build a tech company, you kind of have to do what I'm talking about to yourself, because again, I see this in my customers when they. The reason why my customers love building physical stores, retail stores, is because they can stand in them, they can see them, they can judge every piece by touching it. They can watch their customers come in and look at things. They learn what the first thing is they look at, and how they handle it. Do they pick it up? Is it clothing? Does it feel right? And do they put it down? Is that something for them? And they will rearrange the store every day. They hill climb inside of it because they can judge everything. It's concrete. With an online store, it's not. We try really hard to tell you sort of live how many people there are and tell you stats about it. It's always abstract. It's numbers. It's not real. It's not. It doesn't hit us. Even if you cultivate an appreciation for looking at the numbers and looking at stats and become data driven, if you would do an analysis of how a day went in your mind while being in an fMRI machine, it would be it would be neural frontal cortex only that would light up. If you would think about your day in the shop talking with people, it's the entire brain lighting up. It's just we are predisposed to appreciate the concrete. Of course we are.
We have this exact thing with Acquired. We release an episode, numbers instantly hit hundreds of thousands, and then over the course of months hit millions. And I look at the dashboard and I feel nothing.
Yes.
And then David and I do
then we do an event,
in-person thing at Radio
with
City
a
Music Hall.
tiny fraction of those people, and it's
my whole
blows up the whole brain.
Emotions I've never experienced before. Memory is created. Nostalgia is created. Relationship is created. You're on cloud 9 for weeks, and you're like, that was nothing compared to what was in the dashboard. But
yes, it's so true. And it's like I don't know how to solve it, and I think it might be not solvable because it kind of depends on it might honestly depend on our hardware at some point. It's just we can convince our incredibly malleable frontal cortex of anything, and it can learn to appreciate the abstract, but the lizard brain is not convinced.
Is the age of VR the answer? Is the next stage after charts and graphs and tables to like create full like abstract
Simulate
experiences
the millions of people there.
This is how many people, if you were standing in your
Yeah.
store right now, this is what it would look like as people were
this is
shopping.
how busy your Shopify store would
Yes.
be. Like,
I actually think I think it will be get better and then not nearly the same. I just don't think it's reachable.
yeah.
I do not think you can replace it. And I think that's a real constraint, and we just have to like.
But
work
that's a
around
great
it.
point that you were saying a minute ago about like part of your job and part of the industry's job is to convey that.
Yes.
And describe that to the world.
Okay, so what should other people do if they agree with you that this is this moment of great historical significance?
The actual thing I do is I found myself a thing I really, really care about, and try to bridge from a future to people I care about. It's like I built Shopify. I try to understand what the future looks like with any trick in the book, and I want to help with what's going on, and finding a task that you care about inside of the change is I think the best position anyone can take. It doesn't have to be a software company. Like so much of music is going to change because we can generate quite extraordinary music from neurons directly. That's seen as a threat, and like similar to how words can be generated with AI in an even more obvious way. It's the integration, like help everyone figure out what is like the clearly human part. Because here's a funny thing: like there's a couple of worlds where AI has already massively, obviously math, like the calculator has been there for a long time, and the best calculations and fastest calculations were clearly not done by humans ever since the calculator came around, right? So chess is such a good example of this. Like the best game of chess in every year of the last 20 years has been played by machine against machine. And no one gives a shit. No one watches those matches. No one looks at it. No one studies them. But everyone knows who Magnus Carlsen is, right? Like we actually care not about chess. We care about humans playing chess. And this is the one thing people really do get very wrong here. We need to figure out how to treat what the new capabilities as instruments that we can play, and then explore that space and teach others. And I think that's going to be the most fulfilling and fun position, because it allows you to seep yourself in the things that were previously impossible, while they are still hard, and figure them out, which is always one of the most fun things, and then teach others. I can highly recommend it. It is incredibly fulfilling.
All right, listeners, this is a great time to thank friend of the show, Plaid.
Yes. Odds are you've used Plaid without even realizing it. If you've ever linked your bank account to apps like Robinhood, Venmo, or Chime, you're one of the millions of people, like 1 in every 2 Americans, who've already used Plaid.
I feel like I've grown up in the tech industry alongside Plaid. So many modern experiences are powered by them. And at its core, Plaid isn't just about making it easier to connect to your bank. It ends up being the backbone of thousands of companies building faster, safer, and more seamless financial experiences. Whether it's reducing fraud, speeding up onboarding, or turning old school banking processes into something that feels instant and effortless, Plaid is making it happen.
So last year, Plaid rolled out some powerful tools. Think cash flow data for better credit decisions, anti-fraud tech with AI, and analytics for bank payments. And this year, they're leveling up again with major updates across all 3 of those products.
And they're even helping businesses manage things like direct billing for your subscription. So the bottom line is Plaid is making it easier for companies to build smarter, safer, and more personalized financial experiences that just work.
If you're building financial tools or infrastructure, Plaid's data analytics can give you a serious edge, whether it's fighting fraud, underwriting smarter, or managing payments more efficiently.
And if you want to learn more about how Plaid created one of the biggest networks in financial services today, listen to our recent ACQ2 episode with Plaid's founder and CEO, Zach Perret. Our thanks to Plaid.
It's funny. We were talking to another CEO yesterday who is a huge football fan, American football fan, and last year wrote an AI agent to do his fantasy draft for him.
And like scour the whole internet, take into account all the
Fantastic.
likelihoods to be injured and all that.
Incorporate stuff that people generally like. First, he was
Yes.
like, "What do people not incorporate in their fantasy drafts?"
Well,
that they
first it
should?
was what do people incorporate, but they actually don't know all the information. Go ingest all that information.
Yeah.
Now, what are the factors that I think people aren't thinking about?
Yeah. And so like one of those was like propensity to be injured. Like, you know, yeah, that should be
Wow.
really important. Most people don't account for that. Great, write an AI agent does that. Like,
Or if they do, they've incomplete information, and you could go get more.
yeah. So wrote it, crushed it. Like won the league. All that. Like this year, everybody in his league is using an AI agent.
Yes.
I mean, so then it was like, well, shoot, shouldn't like NFL head coaches do that too? Like,
One thing on this like, well, now everybody's doing it. This thing I've been thinking about is, when you really see the full capabilities of the latest thing in AI, and you get a demo of something, or you get to use something for the first time that you're like, this isn't how I was using it before, and this is not how other people use AI. You think, whoa, I have an edge.
Yeah.
I actually can do something that people didn't think was possible. It's become clear to me that even 5 years from now, people who are successful, it's not going to be people that are making things in an unassisted way. Everything is going to be assisted. And so the best people in the world at anything necessarily will be the people who best know how to use these tools.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that like this is the new bar to be a human out in the world, is understand how to best be a user of AI tools?
Yes, but like I think for a bigger reason than just the like AI tool. I think in terms of stability, which even our industry had, like the things were just like not changing that much.
2015 to 2021.
Like, exactly. So that's that time. Like I think that entire 2010s decade in tech was. I mean, obviously people will rattle off a couple of things that changed, but like we had the mobile phone, we had the platform, and we just sort of scaled the ideas that all come from the previous decade. There it's pretty obscure, but then when things change faster, it becomes very obvious. And there's two groups of people are people who fundamentally have fallen in love with problems, and people who fundamentally have fallen in love with solutions. And I think that sometimes, like, of course, for people who really fall in love with solutions, obviously then grieve if those solutions become unideal. That makes perfect sense, and I'm sure it sucks. And it's happened to me too. I love computer programming, like low level stuff for just like for no reason. I will never implement most algorithms again because I can just like when I type the function name, there's great text already, and I can hit tab and then it's implemented. And sometimes better than probably my naive first implementation would have been anyway. So like there's some artistry lost and some skills that I no longer need. But again, the people who love to solve problems are the ones who are just so enabled right now. And I think everyone starts there. No one falls in love with solutions at the beginning of their careers. It's like you can't. And so I think people need to remember how they got to where they are right now, and realize that this is just a bit of a calcification of who they were. And they need to take a step back and realize probably life was more fun when I was walking around looking for how I will do my craft, right? Like how I will do my thing. Like this even gets so far, like even in the corporate world, like job descriptions, like job titles. We've gotten incredibly, we are almost pushing people into this, like into falling in love with solutions. Like, you know, you're a sales operations expert, right? Like, what is that? That's like a title for a particular way how companies end up solving a particular operational problem they had at some point. What you actually are like is like you're an amazing human being that got hired into a company, and the company wants you to add as much of what you've got to the mission, right? And like clearly, you can zoom out. Everyone does this when going out with friends and venting, right? Like it's just like you're talking about how the place could be better. Well, forget about the title. Like let figure out like how can you contribute. Like and everyone who's like really immersing themselves like in these tools. I sent a memo to my company, and we set the expectation that we require that people reflexively reach for AI now, and we require it because it's unfair not to, because the people who do are otherwise going to be people who sequester all the best careers to themselves, right? I think it's fair to tell everyone that that's what it takes.
Be clear
now.
for everyone who didn't see or forgot the memo from like just a couple months ago, but that feels like a few years ago. You're now required in Shopify to use AI as your first pass at everything, right?
Which was controversial when you sent it, and now seems obvious.
It's exactly. I didn't think I was sending a terribly or controversial message to begin with, but then someone told me that it's like being leaked in bad faith, I think. And then I just like posted it. So that I think worked quite well, at least there. I was surprised how many people cared about that. Because it says a couple of things. Don't if you at the beginning of a project, use AI to prototype it. And then if AI is really bad at prototyping it, make fun of AI. I just want, it's not about what you make with it. It's that you did it, because it might surprise you. And also, very earlier in the conversation, we talked about evals. If AI is bad at the thing that you asked it to do, now you have an eval for the next AI that's coming out. So you're building your quiver of tests.
What are some of your evals? Like you mentioned you have this like folder of instructions. What are some of your tests?
A lot of this is like things where, like from coding, for instance, where it just like misunderstands a certain prompt, which it had enough context. I like the term context engineering because I think the fundamental skill of using AI well is to be able to state a problem with enough context in such a way that without any additional pieces of information, the task is plausibly solvable, right? That's actually, it's a really tricky thing. And now with a lot of agents, the agents end up being pretty good at figuring out what's missing and go get it themselves. But I think that's, the crazy thing about AI is like it can do this. I think the skill people should build is trying to not require it to do it. Why is this a useful skill to build? First of all, it makes it much cheaper to use AI, it makes much higher likelihood of success. But this is really funny. I think it makes you better in so many other ways that has nothing to do with AI. I write much better emails since I became a good context engineer. I now realize how much is unsaid in instructions and why so many things. So much of what people describe in companies as politics is actually bad context engineering. It's really funny because I so often end up doing what is the root node of a problem here that we all have.
Right.
And you realize after digging 1-2 layers down, there's just a fundamental disagreement on an assumption about how to do it. Like, what is good? What does good look like for this area?
David and I have just finally started taking some things that we previously thought, that's part of the secret sauce of Acquired, and who knows why my neurons fire that way. It just comes out and it's part of the magic. We started actually writing down instructions so that AI can do things that we previously thought were like part of our magic. And it's less magical than you think. We've just never had to actually codify how we do the job before. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably a lot of people. We are like, it's a failure of introspection of what actually makes the work that you make good. And once you actually write down your process and all that, you actually and have an evaluation framework for what makes it good, it actually is quite executable by AI.
100%. And you're, I don't know how far you're down this journey now, but there's an entire world that opens itself up to you once you start doing this. Because I have this too, and we have this at Shopify. We use Anthropic's term for, we call these things constitutions, which is maybe a little bit too grand. But figuring out a document that is actually sort of all the things that are not platitudes, whereas all the things where someone else, some other company, would plausibly take the other side of, but those are the real choices, right? If no one would take the other side, it's a platitude. But teamwork is clearly something every company wants, right? Usually the company values end up being just platitudes. It's very funny. So you end up creating a list of these kind of things that you uniquely would pick a side on.
The trade-offs that you're choosing.
Yeah, exactly. What makes, basically write down your uniqueness. And then you get in absolutely fascinating world because first of all, you can use it. You can hold up to your work and just saying, okay, well, help me here with this, and these are things you need to know in your, again, context engineered window. But it gets way more interesting when you use, your favorite episodes transcripts. You add this and say, what's missing from a document? And you get suggestions. And you're like,
could we have made Costco better in some way?
Yeah, right. It's scary, right? Like, yeah.
And so what you will realize is this sort of this is another hill climbing exercise because this constitution will get much, much longer, and you actually will collaborate with AI on it because these things are incredibly valuable. They are, just like, anyway, there's so many. This gets too much into the weeds, but like inside of Shopify, there's so many things that can be done like this. We have product principles which I wrote at some point and have since been hill climbing with all in a loop like this. Any project in our internal systems now, like when it goes into like to review time, is like we can run against the product principles and also the specific principles against of this area, and it's not like some control mechanism. It's in fact. It's honestly just like, here is where interesting discussion should happen. It guides the conversation because very often what we find is the product principles are wrong or imprecise or stated too broadly with not enough provisos. And because you want to write for a large audience in generalities, but like when you do work with AI, you can actually say, okay, well, actually, let's write all the if statements next to the convictions, right? Like, because
it's interesting you need deterministic instructions for a non-deterministic machine.
Right, because and they are of course non-deterministically interpreted in the end. But this is also the beauty of it because sometimes it's like it tests you. Sometimes it says, "Hey, this is contradictory," and it isn't. And then you have to have a conversation with it about it, and like you realize, you know what, that mistake in the way you read that you made probably is that happens non-zero times with humans too, right? Like so. Finding a more precise version of stating the thing that you're trying to go for, or better examples, is also really valuable. All this to say, increasingly I find that, and this is why I'm saying you have to interview these things. Like one thing that I'm really noticing with the latest series of models, specifically GPT-5 Thinking and Pro, is that I feel like I'm pretty good at asking questions, and I can take these conversations with AI into very, very, very interesting places. I have started now asking the AI what my next question should be, and I get better ones very often, and that's pretty impressive. Because again, it wants to predict, and they have now memory very often with all your private conversations. So they are sort of like, I probably, when I'm at my absolute best, I ask better questions when I'm at my average, and so it can execute against my against a idealized version of myself, and it's really, really fascinating and really valuable. I have run like a keyboard logger and sort of what is the active window, and take a screenshot of the window of my machine every 10 minutes, and archived this for going on 15 years now. Like it's something I've always been running, and it's just for my own purposes.
So you have a archive of your daily digital activity of the last 15 years.
Yes.
Holy crap. Wow.
And I also...
what a gift. Like, nobody has that.
I would never imagine this ends up being as valuable as it is.
Yeah.
And
it's like how Tobi became Tobi, how Shopify became Shopify.
It's basically that. And I now, it's a lot of my weekend projects are actually just like, running through all of this and putting it together because, of course, it's dispersed keyboards with lots of noise in it. And
different formats over time.
Yeah, and like every once in a while I use Vim, at which point there's a lot of a lot of what's in the keyboard buffer is complete nonsense.
Yep.
But the nice thing is, with enough AI tools, you can turn this into pretty clean timelines.
Right, without you having to write a script that's like, okay, every time I'm hitting Q, that disregard.
Yeah, and of course the format changed a million times, and there's missing bits and pieces, and then I have my calendar, which I can which I'm now adding to it over the times, and a lot of emails, just headers of who I converse with and so on.
So do you have that in a repository, and then you can just like, whenever you say like, whatever AI model you're using, like, hey, I need you to make something like Toby. Just look at this, and
Yeah.
That's
then
what he's
like
about
do
to
it
say.
like this. Yeah.
This is exactly it. So like it's, I mean, the actual format was I just always turned it into text files, which are like the most lasting bits of artificial. It's the best format in the world because it lasts forever. And now I've like been working on doing more and more work on just like analyzing it and cleaning it and adding more things because the value of it is getting incredibly high. I've also been like always doing like my notes. I kept them, and so like there's their times and so on. So I have I have a lot of digital artifacts about myself, which again,
What prompted you to start doing that?
my initial thing was I just wanted to know what am I spending my time on in general, and there were some tools that
Like
came
rescue
out.
time kind of stuff. Like,
Exactly. There's
yeah.
like I forgot the names of them, but there were some tools. But then I've always been like the things directly about me personally, I want to keep on my machine. That's been sort of a bias, which probably comes from when I started using computers. So, and these are interesting challenges, right? So anyway, so I have all this. I don't even know how it specifically got there, but
What's the most useful thing that you found to input that into?
I have a period of time where I went from full-time programming to fundraising to
CEO,
learning
yeah.
company things more clearly. And just like charting it as a time spent in different applications is interesting. It's also like, I mean, from seeing what I typed into what applications like text docs and stuff like this, I also like, I can track some of my beliefs changing, that's a really interesting experience because it's I mean, the brain is fundamentally thought to be a backwards facing narrative consistency optimization device rather than actually a chronological data bank.
I read a great book recently that described a key element of the brain as the press secretary. When anybody asks you why you did something, the book's called The Elephant in the Brain.
Yeah, good book.
You have this like press secretary that comes up with the rational answer of why you probably did it.
Yeah.
But that part of your brain was actually not present at the time of decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very fundamental. Like the brain optimizes for narrative consistency. And so having some of the, just like things I typed, like I like on many issues that face a company, it's just like fascinating. I haven't come to real conclusion, but I have ability to do it. I might be a bit slow to really do the study well. Like you just have to kind of eat a bit of humble pie.
At a minimum, what an amazing archive, right?
Yeah.
Like you think like companies have archives, right? And it would be like board minutes, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
you have a
true
moment by
source of
moment
truth.
source of truth of how this happened.
Can I ask? I'll ask you the question and then I'll give you some context to try to lead the witness a little bit. What are some of those things that you think you changed your mind on over time that you used to feel strongly on and you feel differently now? And maybe to give the context, everyone remembers 2021. Shopify is like the media darling, crazy stock run up. I think revenue multiple went from 20x to 70x, something crazy
Coming
like that.
Sounds
to
crazy.
narrative, human brains and narratives. COVID happens, people are at home. Shopify,
Right. Does this,
Yeah.
then does that, and you like slowly, you're within. I think you have an internal rule at Shopify. You don't talk about the stock price, but we can talk about it here on air. Spitting distance of all-time highs again.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out as some context if you choose to adopt it for the answer to the question of what are some things you used to believe that you no longer believe.
Yeah, so this is interesting because now I can do, like, we talked about the archive. I can now go and check this. But, like, here's what my brain potentially narratively lays out for me, is that I was quite, I have always seen the stock price extremely different from, like, I work on the fair market value of a company, and which is an unknown thing, but the stock is essentially trying to, the stock is a betting market on the fair market value, right? So it will oscillate over the thing. And so I personally didn't, like, I felt the company was, like, I mean, obviously fits better in the times because now e-commerce is more important. And I think that this, like, actually increases the fair market value of a company. It was like we trained for this moment for us, right? But I it went really, really high and really, really low. And this is like the oscillations over this. It's whiplashy inside of companies. But it's I don't know. I feel like through this I ended up having like my convictions were pretty unchanged. The thing that though happened is where I got caught up is there was like a bubble of a belief that we just had to like massively increase the size of a company, the headcount, and so on to like to deal with this, and for that it would be okay to change like the hiring standards. But I changed my mind on a lot of things. In fact, I think I changed my mind on. I would change my mind on every opinion I have if someone shows up with good data on it, and I think that's actually really, really important.
Can you remember something from the sort of early founder type days before you became like a manager and an executive and a leader that you've done a 180 on?
Like straight up, I didn't believe in leadership. I just didn't think leadership was important. I felt that it's if you get really good individuals and can point them in the same direction, or even without that, like all the right things would happen. And I thought this partly because people really disliked leadership. So clearly the right people would show up. I believe those things are utterly incorrect now. I think people love leadership. They love complaining about it too, which they should. And it deserves all criticism it gets, but like there's something absolutely wonderful being part of a group that's being led. And obviously I'm not always the leader, like especially outside of Shopify. Like I love just being part of a team, and nothing more fun than having someone who has a vision, and building something. And every hackathon I go, I'm just like, hey, I'm taking a vacation from leading. I'm just like, you tell me what to do. It's so good. So you know, that's a distance traveled. That's an almost 100% swing on this particular issue. The first version of Shopify, everyone made the same salary, right? Like just like we kind of like, hey, let's not have difficult conversations, but just paying everyone exactly the same. We'll figure this out. I mean,
How long did that go for?
Well, like not long. But like my first 10 people or so.
I was gonna say, hey, Ben and I do the same. Yeah, we're just like, hey, everybody in Acquire makes the same.
So it's like it's just like and you know, I think that's it. I actually really like this. I know now how egalitarian socialist that's coded, but like I love starting there, right? Like because I think that would be cool if that would be a good way of doing it. But like actually rejecting these things one step at a time is actually perfect, because now you don't have a derivative idea of something. You actually have some, you've ran the test for you.
It strikes me that when you started the company, you knew nothing about building a company or leadership or having anything of this scale. And you had to sort of, from first principles, go from doing it wrong to doing it right along the way.
Yeah.
Where are some places where you found shortcuts where you didn't have to learn it yourself and you could look to some other leader or bring in someone great, and that person actually just had like a whole bundle of shortcut?
One of my most important realizations at some point, like I found myself at some point only doing things I dislike doing. And I'd like to think that even the things I dislike doing, I can learn to, like, I think everyone can get sort of to 80% of state of the art pretty quickly on any topic. But like I was just kind of miserable at doing this. And the reason why, like everything I like doing, I had no problem delegating to other people because I know it's fun. Everything I didn't like doing, I did myself because I didn't feel like I should ask people to do it. And luckily I did it. I overdid this to a degree that I had to, but it broke. It's really good to overswing, right? Like I find that if something just sort of works, you don't have to counteract. But if something like really breaks you, then you just like have to examine the entire picture. And I just ended up like realizing everything I don't like is someone else's dream job. And that's like incredibly liberating. So since then I've been creating lots of beautiful dream jobs of stuff that I don't want to do. So, and that's like, this is, people ask me a lot about, hey, Tobi, why do you actually still like do programming, and why do you find it valuable? Like, I mean, I have a mind. I can't find things that aren't valuable, fun either. Like it's sort of ends up being the same to me. I do trust that if my mind wants me to go in a certain direction, that there's a premonition that it will be valuable in some odd way, and even as analogy or so as like perspective. Or because I meet people that are just
That's probably the successful founder archetype, by the way. If it really comes down to one thing, I think it's having that intuition where the overlap of things that are interesting and exciting to you and value creative just like happen to be perfectly overlapping.
Mm-hmm. And for instance, the leadership thing, a lot of this came from learning an instrument. And I really like playing guitar. I'm very bad at it. But like the funny thing then is I got fascinated with music theory and different genres, and I got so much more out of music. And eventually got to spend some time with jazz musicians who are very high near the top of the pecking order in that world, especially guitar related. And so only after I understood how a jazz band works did I realize what leadership actually is. Because this is where like the business world is just incorrect. I feel like it's so chain of command. But a jazz band is you have a clear leader, and sometimes the leadership changes and shifts around. But like what the leader does is not dictatorially say what is we are playing and how we're spending our time and what to eat. They just invite other people that have merit for what we want to do. In fact, it may be not even. Just invite any people and ask everyone to add what they've got to a very basic set of conventions. It's going to be in a key. It's going to be a tempo. It's emergent. It's like the piece of music is being created at that moment, and the next note is entirely dependent on the merit, skill, and taste of the people who are showing up. And I think this is the best metaphor for what a great team is like. Like a lead, like there gotta be constraints. It needs to be in a key. It needs to be at a tempo. But sometimes even the members of a group propose changes. We go to a different set of chords. We go to a different key. We go from major to minor. People play dissonance to create tension, which is against the rules, to then cause like a merging back of the music, like bringing it back home feels incredibly powerful to everyone listening.
And that's mastery, knowing the rules so that you know when you can break them and why.
Well, this sounds to me like the definition of a technology company.
Exactly.
Like Henry Ford couldn't set up the assembly line like this because every worker needed to do the same thing and every car needed to come out the same way, and it had to be any color you want as long as it's black. But like, yeah, software doesn't work that way.
Software doesn't work this way. People do try to build software this way and really, really try to turn it into something that actually resembles what a car assembly line looks like after it's created. Like that's really, really dialed in, and like everyone does one widget, and you get like 2% out of the individuals that you hired, right? Because like they are incredible. They have a lot to give. They have a lot of priors. They like give them the room to contribute, but then hold them to it. But you would be amazed how often this happens. I've learned so much from video games about business.
Yeah, you've talked about this a lot.
Much.
Okay, wait, when you I'm asking for personal research here, when did you start playing video games with your kids, and how did you do it?
Basically as soon. Like I think we didn't do screens until they're 2 years old, which we sort of picked. And I don't think that's necessarily even good advice. I think maybe it's fine.
Yeah, like a 2-year-old can't play a video. Like my daughter's 4 and is like she's just on the cusp.
So the way
we're starting.
Like the way we played video games was we used an iPad. We were lying on a couch together, and I start Minecraft, and they tell me what to build. They point at things, I build them. Right. So this is us playing video games together, and this is some of my most fond memories because even 2-year-olds would just basically just know words, like letting them choose what we built. Like I played Minecraft a lot before that. In various instances, I never built such interesting things as the kids told me to do. Like we built tree houses and like things on top of tree houses. Like it's just I wouldn't have imagined this because there's so much creativity there. And so that's already a small team. Like I let them to be the jazz director of our play session, and I think I think video games are like very maligned, and like again, nothing is like some of it deserves criticism, but there's always a question: what does it replace? Right? Like in those moments, I probably needed some downtime, right? Like, and this was some way for us to do this. Like, I have a tricky job, and sometimes I need to shut off my brain too. I'd rather do it doing something together with a 2-year-old, being creative, than being upstairs playing Minecraft or so. Like, well, I mean, not exactly what I would be playing, but so I think this is the most important question. So we did this very early, and then it became much more intensive during COVID because I was really worried about how cocooned everyone was. I was like really worried about like the lockdowns and what they would do to kids, especially in that all my boys were like in ages where failing softly was just really important for them. Like you just like have to kind of make mistakes. Like I've gotten where I am by just having failed more than others most of the time, and I invited. I like failing at things. I like being bad at things. So, which is something I want to cultivate with them too. Being very agentic in the world, making lots of choices where you stretch yourself.
It's so fun. I'm like I was so pre-biased this way anyway, but my daughter's like just at this age. She's about to turn 4, and like even just in the last week, she's we have a Steam Deck. I'm previewing my carve out for the next episode. This ongoing saga of David's carve outs about
will he or won't he get a Steam Deck?
Yeah. And it's gone from like me playing this thing to her being like, I want to move the character, and then like watching her figure out how to use a joystick. And like the first night is like, it's like watching a monkey try to use the joystick, and now she's like moving the character around,
Yes.
and it's like, whoa,
It's so cool, and it's so important to not jump in and do it for them. If you like, obviously you can do everything better, but like this is such an important thing to let them actually, like, they ask me for help, and I give them pointers of how to do it better, and it's like it takes a lot. Like it's so hard, and you want to short circuit it.
Last night she was like, oh, I want to talk to these people, and I was like, okay, hit the A button, and she's like, then watch her figure out what the A button is. Unfortunately, she's just like spamming the A button, and I'm like, okay, no, like,
That's not what I meant.
You see her figure it out.
Imprecise instructions.
Yeah.
Hit the A button.
Yeah. You need better context intervention.
Yeah, exactly.
But funny, so like just like a recent thing is I'm dyslexic. 2 of my kids are also dyslexic, and it's frustrating because like it just sort of gets you it makes some things quite harder. In the schools, it's wonderful. My middle kid finally got frustrated with just not being able to type well. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Let's build a habit somehow to do it. And then, he was doing a typing trainer, and it's just, my God, he was very good at it, but with it, and did it for 10 minutes a day. But man, is that boring. So then I went out and like, clearly someone must have solved this. And so we ended up finding on Steam a game called, I can't remember the name, but it's like a roguelite typing game where like you're in the middle and like words come at you and enemies, and you need to type them to shoot them, and then you can choose upgrades, and like it's like now all my kids are playing this type trainer.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like,
even though the other ones don't need to learn how to.
Yeah, like now, like the younger ones also getting good at typing now, because they were all like doing 10 finger typing and getting to like I think he went from 16 words a minute when he started. He's now at like 70, like he types like average speed of most people. And that was like a month. And I'm like, man, how many people think like, I wish I would have learned to type better? Well, let me tell you, there's a video game, you're going to fall into this thing and you come out on the other side being an excellent typer. And just like, again, we have not integrated video games correctly into society either. Like we are just like, we are treating them too frivolously. And as a family who solves problems with choosing video games as a thing that we've done periodically, this has been just one of those, I talk about it, parenting hack. It's like amazing. So it works super well.
Okay, so I have to bring it back to Shopify. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a company specific or company journey specific question for you. If you're an outside observer to the company, it seems like this meme stockification thing that happened in 2021 is a very consequential event to the company. And like, then you have this 80% drawdown, you're in this like public market valley of despair situation. What is it like living through that? And if you could build a time machine, what would you go tell yourself?
Yeah. So like, look, it is very hard for me to, I'm trying to like key an interesting answer to almost any question, because that makes it sort of, that's sort of a puzzle of a good conversation, right? Like how to take this in the most interesting direction. I find this one is really kind of stumping me very often because it just wasn't that interesting. And maybe the most interesting thing about what you're describing is that it wasn't interesting in a significant way. if I would have a time machine, I would tell, I mean, I guess the only thing I would tell myself is that I should quickly get the credit rating and the sort of facilities down to do a buyback. Like once it goes down, that would be good. But like, it just like I would be opportunistic about it. Like I think that
I love that. Spoken like a true entrepreneur.
it's like.
Own more of my company.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Love his company. Best investment I ever made, for sure. So I don't think it was interesting. I think it was inside of a company. We were fair market value of a company. It was something. It actually didn't go down in this time that the stock went down, right? Like it did not change. So
yep.
It was all other people. Yeah, everyone out in the market are wonderful because people buy and sell, and someone buys it with a high conviction, and someone sells it with low conviction. If you have a lot more people with low conviction, then the price is going down because the clearing price shifts. And the low conviction is not due to what the company do very often. Low conviction might be just because the vibe changed, and because people's conviction that there will be buyers tomorrow changed, and
interest rates changed.
Interest rates changed. Russia invaded Ukraine, and every stock moved in the entire market. Yep. But none of those companies has shifted in fair market value outside of maybe military contractors. So it just doesn't. It isn't that interesting, and it doesn't affect. I think the company a lot, but it sort of hangs over the company. It comes up a lot, and the group I'm sort of usually somewhat upset with is, sell-side analysts who gave buy ratings at these ratings, right? Like, it's just like they are the only professionals whose job is to inform the public with good advice, and like telling people to continue buying if companies go to 70-something times revenue, like feels, it feels like an acid test for your quality of your predictions, right? Like, so but like somehow ends up being entirely unproblematic for people doing that, where somehow the fact that they did that and made some people purchase at these valuations, which then lost a lot of money afterwards, on the sell side was probably, Goldman Sachs, because they do fundamental analysis and say, and realize that this is probably overvalued, and sell it to people who then lose their shirt. That feels bad. I want... I love the fact that I've made a lot of money for a lot of people who had conviction in the company, and who purchased Shopify early. I made sure the most different thing I've probably done to most companies of my cohort is that I went public very early, right? Like I went,
right.
It's like over 10 years ago.
2015.
Depending on how you count, it's like a really Shopify sort of 2006 launched the product Shopify, which really is the beginning of of that. We were public, I guess 9 years later from there. But
which
again,
today
it was
is short.
Yeah, today it's like, maybe in decade 3 we'll go public.
Yeah. And we went public with every dollar that we ever raised still in the bank, and add a $1.5 billion valuation, right? Like, so.
You went public at a $1.5 billion valuation.
Yeah. And
it's funny, we did a Shopify episode, and that is still not. That's a crazy low number by today's standards.
And I love it because it means like, hey, I love the facility of public companies. I think it's so cool. You're public.
Well, it means people participated in your growth.
People can buy it on conviction and like say, I like what this company is doing. I like its positioning, and I'm gonna put this into my hopefully tax-free savings account for a long time. And I am very motivated by building something that becomes of more and more value to the people who have high conviction. And so I love it. And I'm the person trying to convince everyone else to take their companies public, because I think it's just like the right thing to do. Again, it's also valuable for a company in many ways, and it's like, again, it's not difficult. It's just like sometimes it's annoying. That's true, but everything is.
Well, to your point about like for every job you dislike, there's somebody else whose dream job it
exactly,
is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And frankly, I thought we were data-driven before we went public, and we really got data-driven through a process of taking the company public. And I learned a lot. Again, 20% of the process was like, I felt pretty sorry for myself of having to do, but 80% ended up being utterly valuable, and just like every challenge you set yourself.
What are some other things in this 2021 period? Sort of as historians, David and I can't help but zoom in on these moments of like great tumult for companies and see how they changed. So I'm curious. One thing you've shared with us before is that even though everyone's issuing all these buy ratings, you actually felt like we're not a very well-run company, and you actually had to change a bunch of stuff, including people. Can you walk us through some of the things in that 2021 forward period where you look back and go, okay, we're a much more resilient company today because we took XYZ actions?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I changed the way I work inside of a company because I just felt like I need to, like, I have special special privileges in Shopify's history, such as I've seen every version of it, and therefore I have an enormous amount of context. Like my own context engineering is like easy because it's all preloaded with every important decision. I've been doing Shopify for 21 years. That's helpful. That helps a lot in product, and it helps a lot in strategy, and it helps a lot in these kind of things. So anyway, but during this time, I mean, Harley, who I've been working with for 15, maybe 16 years now, is
He's the president of
he's
Shopify.
president of Shopify. He's absolutely wonderful, a human being and incredible storyteller, and just creates lots of capacity for me to be more internal focused. And other than Harley, every other executive is more recent now, and it's a combination of things. Like it's not because anyone's bad people, but like with everyone of a previous team, it became a really, really good optimization function to learn a particular way to make me look another way. like to speak about your area in a way that this sounds really rigorous and good. You're probably not deciding over my current biggest problem, which is the one I want to work on. Therefore, I'm going to look elsewhere. And what the thing that COVID did is like there was just no possibility of me being diverted in attention because I just went through everything and like went through every project, spoke with every team directly. When something was really like stuck in engineering, I talked with engineers and so on. This is how I used to run the company before I got into like taking like a little bit more of an abstract view of a company. And so I did more of this and realized this is what I love doing. It's incredibly, it's tons of work, but I would probably do it if you wouldn't pay me for it. Now Shopify looks like this. Every 4 weeks I review every project. We have internal ledger, like this GSD thing where like every project goes in, AI analyzes it against all our product principles. We are corking with gas now, and it's just like building a company that's just like fundamentally built around a certain conviction about how, like, a cohesive way of how great products are created, and getting to explore if you're right about it and figuring this out, is this actually a good way to work together, is cool. And it's something that is unique to, I think, founder-run companies that are there, which are enabled in such a way that like you can really build them differently.
Yeah, that was the thing when you started the answer of like, well, the thing about this period in history was it actually like wasn't that big a deal, and it just smacked me in the face that like only a founder-led company could say that.
Yeah.
Because if you weren't a founder-led company, you would have gotten fired.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
100%.
That's the craziest thing. Again, I really make a massive distinction. Like founder-run companies, ideally we find a different term in companies even. They're just so different from more managerially run companies, more traditional companies. They're just completely crap in so many ways if you judge them basically just from the perspective of companies. Companies are all like have their shit figured out and are operational and like.
And yet, all the most valuable companies in the world are founder-run or look kind of founder-run in some way.
Because there's playbook for managerial-run companies, and they are bad at adapting to the new things because they're fundamentally, again, no one carries the full legitimacy inside of a company. Legitimacy is a currency in companies. No one carries a full legitimacy in a company, even the CEO. The CEO just has a lot of input on the plan. The plan carries the legitimacy, right? And so, in a managerially run company, the plan for the next year or years, if you're in a good one, is the thing that everyone defers to, and the CEO is an avatar and advocate for the plan. And so changing anything requires enormous activation energy. Where, like, again, if a legitimacy is invested in an individual, then you can pivot on a dime. And the people who don't like this don't work in these companies. So you have like broad agreement on that's the way to work. That leads to bad outcomes often. But like, if the individual who's playing this role is very conscientious and is very open to feedback and like changes their mind, like strong opinions weakly held if better data shows up and so on, it can operate at quite a good batting average, which makes the highlights and the accomplishments will end up making up easily for the downsides.
It's funny. I'm remembering maybe it was a Don Valentine thing or maybe a Mike Moritz thing. That's fine. We're
sitting here in
folks who are
Sequoia.
watching. Yeah, we're recording in Sequoia's offices because my home is under construction. So so here we are. But I think Sequoia had a rule or one of their playbooks of evaluating founders of has to be right a lot. Like that's the judgment you need to make as a shareholder in a founder-led company. Like, do I believe this founder is going to be right a lot? If that is the case,
right.
then like great, yeah,
exactly. That's what you need to aspire to.
Which actually, I guess that was borrowed from Bezos, right? That's a Bezosism.
I think be right a lot is an Amazon leadership.
That's
principle.
right. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And it's a really good one. Like it's so to the point.
What do you think? Let's draw a clearer distinction between managerial-led companies and founder-led companies. Because I would argue, Satya is not Microsoft's founder, but it's starting to feel a lot like a founder-led company. Or trying to come up with another good example.
But this is the thing. So such is my go-to example of someone who's transcended it.
Jamie Dimon.
Yeah, right. Both of them have, like, and this maybe is a bit being cute with language, but here's the way I would frame it, just to have some term to hang an analysis on, which can incorporate people in extraordinary individuals like this. I think both of them have given refounding events to their companies. I think they are actually, they have made such large changes with such clear breaks from the past that they are the auteurs of their company's cultures now.
Certainly in JP Morgan's case. We went through the whole thing with it, with like Bank One. This is JP.
I think also, like, I know lots of people from Microsoft.
And absolutely Microsoft.
Like Satya did too.
Yeah.
And these things aren't as significant as like what Warren Buffett did to Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
It's like completely unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Microsoft still resembles the Microsoft of old.
But it's stratospherically opposite on many convictions. It's like using WebKit for its browser, not Internet Explorer. It's very pro open source. It's more open source than, Apple is for sure.
It's shocking that they've become a great business without owning the important platform of the era.
Yeah.
Like that was the entire thing that their success was predicated on in their heyday. They don't have that importance now, that relevance, and yet it's still a great business.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue Azure is actually more of a platform now. I don't know. Like, I mean, this is not the episode about Microsoft. I appreciate Microsoft deeply, and
we do
it's
too.
Full of incredible like individuals, and it's like hard to find fault there. Like it's just like such an incredible company and such a storied business. And again, I aspire to build a company that lasts for a long time. So like Microsoft has been incredibly successful at this and managed to reinvent itself. And it's like as the second most valuable company in the world, I think, or for free or something.
But it seems like there's, it's interesting to hear you include CEOs like that in the cadre. There's a group of
Frank Slootman goes in companies and turns them into like sufficiently moves them to give them refounding events. So I think this is actually an employable strategy. It requires enormous intestinal fortitude and will probably not work often.
And the existing shareholders handing over the control for someone to, in a one-way door manner, take the company over.
Yeah. My sense is we will see a lot more of it. One of my executives, Cass, is going to Open Door. And, again, obviously that story will have to be written about how this goes. But I think that is a business that everyone agrees requires a refounding event to have a shot. And you see more recognition of that coming with him coming in. And I think compensation system even set up to facilitate this kind of thing. So
it's $0 salary, and it's all based on if the stock does well,
Yeah,
something like that.
Which is, I mean, again, that's a founder type like a compensation that's similar to starting.
Yeah,
starting
that
a
was
company.
Jamie Dimon of like, I'm going to put half my net worth into this company that I've just joined as CEO. Like,
That's right. Yeah, like if like all in this, like people underestimate how expensive hedging is. But all this to say, so we've come here to the talk about like a founder-led companies and managerial companies. Currently, people don't understand how stratospherically different they are. I think the thing that will contribute to understanding this in the future is because we actually, I think, will determine that there is sort of a middle ground here that is sort of, you can get it from both sides, that is like super highly enabled individuals and with an acceptance for things going wrong, as long as the balance arcs towards great success is what you want. Right now, the only people who are in a position to ever get there are the founders of companies, because the shareholders didn't traditionally let them.
Right.
yeah.
And so I think like Jobs got back there, but wouldn't have if he would have come in as a new hire, right? Like at Apple. So I think we'll find new tools, and then I think people will
Yeah, people
realize.
appreciate this now in a way that they didn't before.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, the playbook of VCs used to be step number 1, fire founder. you
Yeah,
know?
It's like we've seen enough iterations of the simulation now where you can say, oh, actually, it is worth it to vest all of our trust into this one person.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And there's going to be plenty of individuals who are not worth that trust, right? So this is, again, it will fail, and it's risky, and people don't like taking risks, especially investors, because, again, like if open door isn't working, the people who made this deal with Cas are going to not look very smart, right? Like so, so it's high alpha, upside downside, which many people avoid, but like I think again we will see this being de-risked, and so anyway, it'll be more common.
But we're also, we're operating in the, more and more companies are operating in the technology world.
Yeah.
Which is going through this ridiculous, crazy platform shift, as
Yeah.
we talked about in the first half of this conversation.
And this is the
You have to operate this way as a company.
You have to. Right. So, and this is super important, like, because we're not talking about a generic, like, there's no question of where in the spectrum you want to be if your business is making, is a widget supplier to, General Motors or something. Like, it's like just operational effectiveness, like sweat every detail, Frederick Taylor stopwatch everywhere. Being founder run there doesn't do anything. It just like adds chaos and adds hard to predict, like quality control, I imagine. So there might be someone hearing this, there might be an industry which is being reinvented right now. And like maybe, but like I think the default position should be you want these to be actual companies. This is why I also feel like it's actually better to call the founder-run, even public companies, kind of ventures or missions or something. It's like probably nonsensical to try to make that change and make that stick, because it'll never stick. But
Was
like
this part of your process of discovering that like leadership is important for
Yeah.
you and for Shopify?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like I felt very, very dumb the moment I made this realization. Like I feel like I've had everything basically through most of my life to make this realization very, very early, and it took me way too long. But it's that leadership and consensus are two sides of the same spectrum. Like they don't intersect at all. It's like every time consensus makes a decision, it's the absence of leadership. And so I also think not enough people know this, and I don't think, I still feel like it is a bit of a secret, because even in our language, consensus is a positive term. Maybe it's fine, but consensus is always the absence of leadership. No one, like everyone abdicated their leadership responsibilities to cause a consensus, to emerge, and prioritized the presence of a consensus to finding a best solution. Some people are so clever that they can manufacture consensus around what they would have chosen anyways and operate this way. But like that's sort of the only time these things combine. And usually it's you decide one thing or another.
So do your alarm bells go off if you start sensing consensus around something in
Oh,
Shopify?
even worse than that. I actually use it when I don't want decisions to be made. Like if I like
If you want to punt
Yeah,
something, you're like,
yeah.
kumbaya, we're all going to get in a room and like.
I think most companies play too much with pricing all the time. It's like it just like causes all these problems with data, and like it makes it hard to predict. And then suddenly you A/B test discounts, and then you cheapen the product because now people are just going to wait for the next discount and stuff like this. I mean, obviously, all these things are valuable strategies, but like I think people overdo it and make like full-time positions, changing pricing and so on. And I basically like every 5 years I say, okay, let's look at pricing. Let's from first principles, like get to a pricing. If that happens to be the same we have today, we don't do anything. In other cases, we make changes. And then it goes back into the firmament, and we are not looking at pricing again for 5 years, just because otherwise it's too distracting to a company. And I used to just forbid it from doing pricing. Now I have a much better way. I create a pricing council. And the council can, if they come to a consensus that something is a better idea, they can then pitch me on it. And it's like super easy to say no at this point, and they don't get to a decision anyway. So I don't have to deal with it
So you have two
anymore.
layers of protection.
Yeah.
Which
exactly
is
perfect.
you're not going to get to a decision, and then you still have the veto.
Yeah. Once you see through the matrix, you can there's moves become available to you which are highly efficient.
This is like whenever a company tells us that there's a V team forming to look into something, or some sort of like committee, or like what? So it's nobody's job.
Yeah. No, I think that V teams can super work. It just you have to have a leader, right? Like that it needs to be extremely clear who is responsible and who.
This is the old Apple thing, the DRI, the directly responsible individual, and like it has to have someone's name next to it. Is it? Yeah.
I mean, Apple maybe too, but like Amazon is definitely big on the DRI thing. Yes. Exactly. So yeah, I'm a fan of making this quite fluid. I think it's like I said, I'm going to be a team member in a Hack Day project. I'm not the leader. I think very often it like if not in commonly the person who's the leader of an area is different from the highest paid person, you're not actually making the choice of leadership sufficiently. Is one test I apply, because by default. MO in every company is the highest paid person is making decisions, right? This is actually why I take a $1 salary. Like, so just to like
but that, I mean, you benefit by far the most if the company does well.
Of course. And because it's like I can, and like it's fun, and anyway, whatever.
Yeah. What's the term? The hippo, the highest paid person in the organization is always the person that's right in a room.
Yeah. I want to signal that I will come with opinions. I want everyone to give me better ones because that's fun. So anyway, so consensus, decision-making, and leadership are, I think, a spectrum. If you see instance of leadership, you also saw a company that has the ability to avoid needing to make every one of its decisions via consensus. The problem with consensus decision is on that spectrum from 1 to 10, it's usually a 6 or a 7. You're just like, by the very process of making it need for making a consensus, you optimize for lack of downsides. So people are almost always better than 5, because they really like they don't get the middle. You get like the best version that everyone can agree on.
It's like back to the floor and the ceiling thing. Of
Exactly.
Like, yeah, consensus will get you a floor, but it'll cram that ceiling
Floor,
down.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does. While in a presence of leadership, you can hit any number 1 to 10. And if you're a company that wants to hit 8, 9, 10, or die trying, then you kind of have to
rule by fiat. It's the only answer. But more charitably, like we are, when we're looking at creating the best products and the biggest companies and the most successful organizations, what you are looking to do is create an extreme outlier.
Yep.
And extreme outliers can only be created, pick your term, whether it's by an auteur designer or rule by fiat or leadership, rather than consensus. Outliers come from like a single vision executed by a team of people, not an agreed upon vision executed by a team of people.
That is 100% true. And this is like very, very, very consistently demonstrated in every area where it's quantifiable how good things are, right? It's just like I don't think a great book has been written as a big collaboration between multiple people. It's like books are as good as they are because they're always single author. There's a supportive agent in the editor, clearly, but that is a supporting role.
This is so interesting because I completely agree, and I'm like obsessed with auteur-driven things, and yet we operate a partnership where neither of us are the boss. And
yeah, but it's a totally different thing. We're a 2-person partnership. We are one person.
I suppose a 2-person committee. We're like a married couple at this point. It's like a fused brain.
I doubt that you work by a committee. I think you like every single time I see a great partnership, it's when I see people who are actually learned to respect and trust the other person, like each other, over in which areas they tend to have a higher batting average.
That's actually true. That's not. We don't operate by consensus at all. We operate by if one of us wants to do something, we do it.
We should search our iMessage thread for defer to you.
Yeah. That's just like anytime one of us wants to do some. We're both founders, and so anytime one of us wants to do something, we do it. That's just what it is.
Exactly. And I work very closely with lots of people that who are just will give the right to overrule me. Like my co-founder of Shopify was Daniel Weinand, who was a brilliant chief design officer eventually, and he had veto rights over every feature we shipped. And like this was, I made the decision on what we were building, and I wrote most of the code, especially because at some point it was the 2 of us only, and he said no to features that I wrote and wanted to ship because we couldn't figure out how to make the UX code for it. And that was important because Shopify's killer feature in 2006 was we had brilliant UX. Like this was, we were the linear of our time, the Figma. And it's always been incredibly important. Giving the people who have a highest context and the greatest authorship over aspects of a company is also, that's not consensus. That is actually straight up leadership again, right? Like the leader on that aspect becomes that person. And so it's important that you need to be able to realize.
Right. You shouldn't listen to this and be like, oh, I need to be like Tobi and I need to be the leader on every single thing in the company. Like that's not the lesson.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I absolutely am not. What I don't believe in is pushing decision-making outwards, sort of this grassroots or down an organization idea. I also don't believe in top-down decision-making. I believe in pulling decision-making inwards. I create the highest ideal liquidity environments in which we can make very good decisions quickly, but where it's very clear who's making decisions and who's consulting on it. And this is, again, these like review cycles I talk about are that. Like we are going through 1,000 projects. It is a crazy thing to do. It's like starts at like 8 a.m. and usually runs to 10 at night, 3 days out of every month. And the follow-ups from this are probably for a weekend. I do follow-up reviews and stuff. It's just like I happen to like working, which is good. And
you sound locked in.
It's like it's good. It's like this is what I want to do, and like I think I'm doing a thing that I didn't set out to do. I'm trying to build at massive scale, like a societally important piece of software. Like it's like there's a lot of, if we subtract Shopify out, like if it disappears overnight, there's a lot of countries which would have no GDP growth.
Second order GDP because of Shopify is massive.
Yes,
of all your customers.
Yeah, it's like just like plain GMV, gross profit dollars, like just sales across the platform is like I think a third or more of the Canadian entire GDP. I mean, if you
what's the number-ish?
It's like 400 billion kind of things. Like it's just absolutely crazy. I didn't hardly mix it, so I don't.
I think that would make you either the second or third largest retailer in the world if all of that GMV was accruing to one retailer instead of the distributed.
Which obviously it isn't. So this is a highly virtualized way to think about it. But like in terms of the checkout that Shopify ships, it is in the top 3 busiest checkouts on planet Earth, and at a growth rate that it might end up being the biggest. And so it's that's a tremendous responsibility, which I don't operate too much like on regret minimization. I actually like a slightly different framework there. Bezos famously talked about future regret minimization.
What is the nuance?
I'll get into this because it's fun. But it's my biggest regret would just be like, hey, I didn't take it seriously and like responsibility seriously enough, right? Like I I think it sucks when people use bad software. I think it sucks when anyone's underperforming their own potential due to tools. I can do so much here, so I of course I'm dedicating myself to this kind of thing. Very early, we talked about founder-run companies versus managerial companies, and how in management, like a CEO is being fired when results are bad, which I think is fundamentally that's multiple levels of wrong. But like the way to judge a CEO is like, out of what opportunity did you carve what company, and maybe even for what reasons. Like you look at something like eBay, which by rights should have all of commerce on the internet, right? Like they were there first and had everything figured out, owned PayPal, like
incredible business model, asset light.
Shopify does not own Stripe. It's like they had the entire thing. They, in the PayPal acquisition, like think about the staff. It's like Peter Thiel coming in, Elon Musk, Max Levchin, and like a million others besides. David
the guys that started YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like think about the talent density that they've got. Like so, from that moment, what's eBay now? So
not that, yeah,
right. And so, I mean, you can even play. This is the craziest thing. You can even play that game with Microsoft, right? Like it's like obviously the courts have now said that Apple can charge 30% on all the economic activity on top of platform with some emergent provisos and maybe carve-outs. That means Microsoft could have done this with a PC, right? They got in antitrust over shipping a web browser, which is so insane if you think about it, right? Like it's like what they should have done is have an app store and charge 30% of literally all money on Planet Earth right now, right? Like that. So what kind of $1 trillion company would that be? Yeah. So obviously I'm not advocating for this particular reality. I'm very glad this didn't happen. And I think maybe all of Planet Earth is off better because this did not.
Well, we have Ben. You have your theory that every great company has latent economic value within it that it chooses not to exercise.
Stored potential energy.
100%. So out of what opportunity did you carve what is actually the right question. Of course, much harder to judge, but at least for purposes of every CEO evaluating themselves on the job, that is the question they should ask themselves. So it's certainly the question I ask myself.
Okay, give us your version of the regret minimization framework.
Okay, well, I mean, so I do agree with it. Like in general, I think it's just lossy, and I think it's much enhanced. So the way before I knew that was the way Jeff talks about it, I always somewhat maybe more sort of philosophical. I just feel at the end of life you meet the person you could have become, I think the work in life is try to minimize the difference between that person and who you actually ended up being. So that's certainly what I do. I think one ingredient in this.
Say that one more time. Is it at the end of life?
Yeah, at the end of life, you get essentially like the game over screen is like you get this, like you get to meet the person you could have become if you would have
the best version you could have been.
The best version you could have possibly been. And I think your goal on Planet Earth is to minimize the difference between that and that potential. So, again, this is not. I don't think this is a truth of any kind, but it's a very, very valuable story to believe, and sort of a thing that I get a lot of value out of. I think one of the most important ingredients is not just think about future self-regret. Don't think about what you're at a deathbed you would have wanted to do. You need to consult your inner 16-year-old too. It's so important. We live in such amazing times, and we have accomplished so much. Many people, like everything we currently have, is something that we dreamed of at some point, it's important.
That's what a perfect place to end it. Couldn't agree more.
It feels like such a cheap way to make better decisions, but I wish more people would do it.
Yeah. Well, Tobi, thanks for doing this with us.
This was good fun. I love that. It's a great conversation. Thank you very much. Thanks for your platform. I, again, keep saying this, but I love your podcast. So great work.
Thanks
for letting us be a fly in the wall on your own discovery journeys on these storied companies and people.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tobi.
Awesome.
All right, listeners, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.